Hello and welcome back to my art channel on YouTube. This is Caroline Stengel. Today I want to talk to you about the many innovative things you can do with simple gradient washes and some illustration techniques you can add afterwards. Hope you enjoy it. So here I am getting started. I've taped a piece of watercolor paper to a piece of plexiglass and I've divided it into 3 sections. And I'm using a large Chinese watercolor paintbrush to wet down each section before I paint it with a gradient of colors. You have to work fairly quickly when your paper is wet so that it doesn't dry out on you. So I recommend that you prepare the colors you want to use on your mixing tray before you get started. Then you can just reach for those colors and add them to the paper as you need them. In this last block, I have left a blank arch shape right in the middle to hold my rainbow. And I'm just using tiny streaks of color to make my rainbow. My little rainbow is the perfect example of a gradient wash because the colors just flow together on the wet paper. A gradient wash means that the colors transition from one to the other. You can even make a gradient wash with a single color by diluting it with water so that it fades away. You might not have noticed, but just now I played a little trick on you. The painting that you see in front of you is bone dry. I gave it some time to dry after doing those washes, and that's an important thing to know, because if you want to layer washes on top and you don't want to disturb what you did originally, you need to let it dry first. What you just watched me do with the paper towel is I was trying to lift some of the washes out of that rainbow panel, but it didn't work. But here it is working. I'm using my brush just with water in it to lift some of the paint and brushing it off onto my paper towel to make a moon and some misty looking clouds. Now you can see that I'm preparing little pools of paint in my mixing tray. It's really good to do that ahead of time so you always have the colors you need ready to go. You'll notice here that the edges of those clouds originally were fairly sharp looking, and I took my brush with water in it to blur the edges and let that paint bleed across and make it soft. I'm doing that throughout this little sky painting because I want everything to look soft and misty like a rainy day. Now I'm making some tree silhouettes on the middle panel, and I'm doing that using a technique called wet on dry. My paper is bone dry because I let it dry overnight, and now I'm doing another wash layer on top with this darker indigo color. And I'm letting the wash gradually fade away as I move towards the bottom of the paper by adding more water. That dilutes the color. I'm moving over to my third panel now to give the middle and the right side panel both some time to dry. And here I'm using again a wet on dry wash to create the silhouette of a sailboat. And I also do a bit of color lifting with my wet clean brush, similarly to when I made the moon and the clouds in the middle panel. I'm just brushing that red paint off with my brush and putting it onto my paper towel. It's like wiping it off. And it makes some nice highlights on my sails. And now I'm going into my middle panel and adding a foreground shadow with some silhouettes of little trees. I like how the mist is forming in the middle, kind of like a misty night, mysterious. Now I'm giving my clouds in the middle panel a bit more definition using a darker color. I'm adding more layers, and that will intensify the color. And I've added a little seagull to my rainbow. And then I'm back to the middle again. I'm moving around between all 3 panels, giving each one extra time to dry. It's a good idea to work on several watercolor projects at once because they always need drying time, and if you're feeling restless and you want to keep painting, you can work on a different one while one is drying. I like that technique. I'm peeling my tape off to reveal the nice crisp edges, and you have to be so careful when you do that because it'll often rip, which is quite a drag. And now I've picked up my illustration pen. It's permanent ink, and I'm adding some line embellishments to my pictures. That little bit of whining you heard in the background was my puppy. She's so cute, but she sure whines a lot. Now you can see that I'm drawing the rain with little dashed lines and little dots, and I'm adding some detail to my trees and texture and pattern. I'm just having fun. I'm, looking at my painting and seeing what I want to do to it. This is the part that I really like the most because it just brings a crispness and makes all the details pop. It's fun to draw when you have something underneath to guide your hand. I like that. Here my kitties come for a little chin rub. I'm just carrying on adding detail, having a good time with my pen. The sailboat doesn't need a lot, but I'm just enjoying putting some more information on the boat. I don't really know what sailboats look like without looking at a reference, but this is just for fun. And that little bark was Vincy, who my students will know it belongs to another instructor with our school. So I named the boat Kendra, after someone that we all work with. And I want to dedicate this painting to my students. I hope you enjoyed the demo. Thanks for watching.